which enables some developers not only to deliver their projects without much delay, but also win the customers' trust and gratitude. After all, a home is the biggest investment of most people's lives, and the joy of getting a good home is immeasurable. Today on the show, that's our central theme of the discussion. What do the good guys do which sets them apart? So that's what we're going to do with a panel of developers who, according to our report card of timely delivery, have topped the list. And also on our panel, well-known architects and consultants on how some of them in the industry are able to get it right. With me today, Chetan R Shah, VC, Marathon Group, also Kalhan Mattu, Director, Planet 3 Studios, Architecture. Here with me in the Delhi studio, Vineet Relia, Managing Director, Sare Homes, Sachin Sandhir, Managing Director, Rix South Asia, and also joining me, Anshuman Magazine, CMD, CBRE South Asia. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. I think we are constantly being told that over 600 shows and almost over 2.5 years of doing the property show that we've bashed developers at least 500 times. Well, it's time to actually acknowledge the good work done as well. Execution delays, we know, can't be completely eliminated. There are multiple factors ranging from approval delays to labor issues. But there are developers who, with their expertise, have managed to bring these delays down considerably. So let's give you the track record of the best developers, because last week and the week before you did get the track record of the worst as well. But we are going to balance it out and tell you who are the good ones. Now let's start with National Capital Region, which Pan India has the worst record of delivery. Let's look at the best ones now, because you need to know their names as well. Sare Homes tops the list there, IDEO Management, 3C Group, Vatika Group, Mahagun Group, Gorsons India, and Paris Buildtech. These developers are the ones who have, with minor delays, and when we say minor delays, it's 12 to 14 months. The business is a long gestation one. It's dependent, as we said, on approval. So that's something which is acceptable and all right. Developers with a steady track record in the Mumbai market, and they are actually ranked in terms of certain parameters by Prop Equity Research. Dosti Group tops the list, MMR. Marathon Realty follows very, very closely. Kalpatru comes next. Sangvi Group, Ravi Developers, and Ekta World. So that's the list for Mumbai region. Also Bangalore, a market which actually has a long list of developers. It was tougher to cull out the top ones there. Puravankara Project, Shobha Developers, Mahavir Reddy Structures, Prestige Group, and Brigade Group. So a lot of the names very familiar. New players obviously recognizing the need to deliver in time and deliver quality. So let's divide our discussion in a couple of parts, but the biggest one, timely delivery. What does it take? Let me start with Vineet Relia here. Vineet, top the NCR chart, but that's also because there's no legacy. You knew all that was wrong in the India market. So, you know, you came with a lot of learnings, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. In fact, when we started, we first thought, let's sit and analyze what was going wrong according to us. And some of the key parameters which came out, like we said, first thing, we've seen a lot of developers, focusing on insourcing. They would do everything in-house, from even the construction practices to design, detailing, design. So we said, no, we're going to follow, we want to build a scalable business. The first rule is we'll outsource everything.
Right.
Now that leads to my second point, where we have the advantage of riding on a lot of external expertise, because you could be actually riding on n number of consultants across geographies, across nations, and you could pull in the resource you want at any point in time. If you're focusing on in-source, you kind of in a way stuck with the people you're working in, and you just can't go out.
Important point, outsourcing.
The third point which we said was, yes, we want to have a national focus rather than a local focus, because you can have market issues and dynamics which at times will slow down project. Could be approval related issues, could be a market issue, could be anything. So it's very important as an organization, if you want to build a scalable thing, you got to have a national focus. You got to divide your risk. Then there was a classic, which we've spoken about the show on many times, is a lack of liquidity. It's very, very apparent. A lot of developers, the houses are sold and the money is diverted into land banking.
Right.
So, as a company, we don't get into land banking. We get into projects which are, all our projects are completely watertight and there is no fund movement across projects, which also leads us to another thing, that we don't get into the land aggregation business. Somebody needs to really define a clear geography between, there's a clear difference between an aggregator and a developer. A
Right.
developer like us, we go pick up approved land or likely to be approved land, then focus on building the home rather than getting into aggregation where there is no, in spite of the best efforts, aggregation and approvals can get into any kind of delays.
Okay. So
Yeah.
some of the key ones for timely delivery of the project, I think capsuled. Chetan Shah, right there at the top of the Mumbai list, what are you doing right with your business?
See, there are three points which delay the projects. Customer delay is something that we need to take care of. So whenever we buy land, we need to get it approved. So whenever we launch a project, it is all approvals in place. So the delay from acquisition of land till approval is actually on developer's account and it is not given to the customer. Now once the project is approved and it is launched, there are intermediate approvals that are required in Bombay, like further commencement certificate and things like that. Now with our 45 years experience in real estate activity, we know how much time it takes. So that is already built into our model. So that again doesn't affect our customer. And finally, there is a third point of delay which takes place because of the government's changing rules halfway into the game. That's where we don't have control. Now, having said all these things about approval, there is also an execution risk. While you are executing, there are best practices available. What they taught us at IIT 30 years ago of ERT and CPM method, which was done on paper, is now done using software. So we build into it all the activities, and at Marathon we have 3,000 broken up activities in a project. So all 4-year plan is already known to the minutest of detail, that which month, which week, what activity is going to be done. And then we have this monthly plan given to the site and actively followed up by weekly coordination meeting. So this way execution risk also gets reduced.
All right, Sachin Sadir, before I come to you, I'm going to actually look at some of the challenges for developers, though both the gentlemen who run very efficient companies in the real estate business have outlined quite a few of them. One is outsourcing versus insourcing. That's something that Vineet Relia just highlighted. Large Indian developers adopting the in-house construction model, which results in limited abilities to scale up and down quickly. Limited leverage of external expertise, and that also is a big constraint. In-house construction team tends to rely on internal experts and does not leverage the external consultant and operational expertise. Lack of liquidity, again being pointed out. Almost all Indian developers are highly leveraged, and they also tend to divert funds into buying and aggregating land, along with other practices of diversion of funds. So this keeps them perpetually stretched, which cascades down to vendors, leading to construction delays. I think also vendors have this constant complaint with real estate industry. They don't get the payments in time, so they stop the supply of material. No standardization. Almost all large developers concentrate on luxury projects with unique designs and features. They're therefore not able to leverage on a replicable model based on standardization. And we've already talked about some delays which are beyond the control of the developer. Lack of management depth. This is unique to Indian industry. Many developers, including larger ones, are structured as a family business. The patriarch in most cases is still around and is very hands-on, leading to a highly centralized decision-making process. Sachin Sadir, is that pretty much the summary of why so many get it wrong in this business?
I think absolutely. We carried out a research on the skills gap that exists within the real estate industry, and the fact that most development businesses tend to be very family-driven businesses still. And I think one of the key things that we realized was that there was a huge shortage of professionals within these organizations, and there was really no management depth, and decision making was very, very centralized. And I mean, you look at all core skill sets. You look at project managers, you look at effective cost managers, people who are looking at assessing risk associated with the projects. That entire lack of skill set was, was a major reason as we saw it within most real estate companies. So lack of management depth definitely is a key concern, and obviously the fact that most businesses haven't corporatized. Some of the reasons why some of these developers have done well is because they have corporatized. They've got professionals who are actually running these businesses, and I think that separates some of the developers who have actually have delivered projects on time vis-a-vis some of the people who have not delivered on time. So yes, definitely a key issue.
All right, Anshuman Magazine, mismanagement is something which even the largest developers in the country have been tagged with, and they are paying a heavy price for their brand erosion today. How would you distinguish between, developers who have just gone wrong without intentionally doing so, and then the ones who actually are intentionally diverting funds, etc.? So how does a customer really get to the bottom of how does he pick the right developer?
See, besides everything else which is mentioned about outsourcing, the bottom line is the process, system and people. Like you rightly mentioned, most of the developers are family-owned businesses. They really started, a lot of them started building the org chart only when the private equity money started coming in 2006-07, where they said, look, we are going to put money in your organization or in your project, but where are the people? What's your org chart? What about the processes? What about the systems? All this is happening, and I think that does make a big difference. And this is not only processes and system for construction, but also people and processes for running their own businesses. So I think that's a major difference. A lot of the developers went national. As you know, real estate is a local business. Even internationally, even if you go to the United States, most of the developers are local. Now, there is nothing wrong in going national, but in the past, as you know, a lot of developers went national, but they did not have the capacity, they didn't have the processes, and now we are seeing a trend where a lot of these developers are actually cutting down nationally and focusing on the core areas where they're working. Another point which has not been mentioned so far, and we don't think about it, a lot of the developers who are struggling right now, besides all the issues about management and liquidity and etc., the many other issues, is really price discovery and price gradation. What had happened is, in the past, you will see a developer launching a project at a price and suddenly he sells 100 apartments in 1 week, and everybody is really happy, look, the project has done fantastically well. But what is not forgotten but not taken into account is that he has another 400-500 to sell, and after 6-9 months he realizes that the price, either the price he has launched at, what it sold was not being able to, he was not able to hold on to this price, and now he's not able to sell the rest. Because of that, sales come down. Because of that, there's no liquidity, and the project gets delayed because he doesn't have money to pump into the project. Sometimes the other mistakes which have been made is that, okay, he's launched at the right price, but then now he's increasing the price after every 3-6 months, and then he goes wrong. So I've seen a project, let's say he's started at 100 rupees, and he's suddenly, after a short period of time, is increase the price to 150. He gets some absorption, then he goes to 175, and that's little absorption, and then he's not able to sell. Now the problem is he can't drop the price because already 40% of the project is sold at an X price. So this is also a critical factor for delay in projects which we have not discussed so far, and we don't think about it.
Anshuman, that's a very smart point that you raised. In fact, we also know, and this was discussed very recently in the MCHI CREDAI AGM, on how there was an expert who very openly said developers also tend to hold on in the hope that FSI will be increased. So not only pricing, but there are a lot of reasons, isn't it, Mr. Shah, where developers actually end up holding on to projects. But we'll come back to that a little bit later. Kalan Mattu, you're on the inside of the business. Look at it from an architect's point of view and tell us what separates the wheat from the chaff or the good from the bad.
I think it's professionalism 1, 2 and 3. I think some of the forward-looking developers who have systems and processes in place. They know how to engage with professionals outside the system. They know how to use the talent well to actually achieve desired objectives. And currently I'm working with developers who are aware to the extent that they're using building information technology or building information management for design creation, and we're working with their teams on that. We're using building assembly management. We are even looking at the operations of the building through their life cycle. So that kind of sophistication and professional approach is kind of needed to align these projects on a path to success. But having said that, this will be probably the future way of doing things, and I think I would really urge a lot of our developer friends here to sort of engage with the future. But the issues that remain in the industry are very basic. I mean, the issues are about lack of skilled labor. The issues are about on construction, on the how sites are constructed, the technologies, the antiquated technologies that we are still using in spite of the world having moved away and moved on probably 2 decades back. The issues are about the quality of project management that we actually do on sites. So all these kind of come together, and yet even in this day and age, design, construction, engineering happens in isolation and they're not truly integrated. So a lot of these things do tend to influence the quality of the outcome. They tend to influence the schedule that we manage to adhere to. They also manage to impact the cost of the project.
All right, so quality of the product, I think we're going to come back and discuss that. So one is on-time delivery, but then also, have you actually delivered what you've promised to the customer? Some of those glossy brochures don't show anything close to reality. Some of those sample apartments are way different from what the person or the home buyer actually gets it. Even in terms of common areas, the landscaping shown, there's many a slip between the cup and the lips. Let's come back and discuss what the best developers do to make sure that what's promised is delivered. What are the best practices in real estate in the country which allow some developers to excel and actually deliver projects in time with quality is what we are discussing today. We've already shown you the report card of some of the top developers in NCR, in Mumbai region and in South India. We will of course bring you the names again at the end of the show. It's important that you know who are the ones who really made the cut. Meanwhile, we've discussed on how to make sure that you deliver on time. What about delivering quality? Kalhan Matu, just before the break, you were talking about just the design, construction. What is the Indian consumer getting for the money that he's spending compared to, let's not go to a Singapore and take an example of Singapore or of the United States or Dubai, but let's just go to other countries which are closer to us on the scale of development and tell us how far behind are we?
Unfortunately, the only parameter on which you can match properties outside India is the price that they command in the market. Everything else, frankly, is quite poor. I mean, the quality of design that we do here needs a lot is desired there. A lot of improvement required there. The quality of construction, everybody knows about it. I mean, and we know the challenges there. The quality of thought that goes in the performance of the buildings and how they'll perform over time through their life cycle is something that's also fairly behind its time. I think there's a huge disconnect between what we promise and what we deliver, and that disconnect, that gap needs to be bridged now because increasingly customers and end users are getting more and more demanding. They're more aware of what quality really is, and I think this is a whole mindset change that needs to come about in the industry. We are very happy selling sky and views and everything on our brochures, but delivering very little on site. So which is fairly sad, if you ask me.
Mr. Shah, how would you counter what Kalhan has just raised, that glossy brochures don't always meet the expectations of the consumer or the buyer? There's a difference between what he expects after seeing the sample apartment and what he really gets.
Truly said. What is important is what is the expectation of the customer, and that is what you need to build when you are giving the brochure. So at Marathon, we have always had a policy of under promising and over delivering. So what you give in the brochure is something that is planned to the detail at the beginning of the project. So even the color scheme and the minutest detail of the project is worked out on a software. And if you compare the photograph in the brochure and the real life photograph of our projects, you will see the similarity. And while executing the project, we go through many changes. Now those changes are for the betterment of the customer's use of the product, which are all internal changes. If we have a newer tiles available, for example, then we would use that. We have a newer electrical systems that are available, we would use that. So while executing the project, we keep on improving and innovating in the product. So ultimately, when the customer gets our product, he or she is very happy, and that is what is building word of mouth publicity for us.
Okay, fair enough. Vineet Relia, I think it's well accepted that we need to go a long way on both the design front and the quality of construction, but would you agree that I think the large part of the job of keeping the customer happy is to set reasonable expectations or the right expectations on what product will he get?
Yes, I think that's the entire key in the whole thing, and your brochures, your sales collaterals and your sales channel partners, everybody plays a role in that. We've seen occasions where like for us, after our initial learning curve, we also went through a learning curve. We've standardized brochures pan-India. All our products are very standard, and whatever is committed, even the pictures, that's what we are delivering on ground, including the landscape designs, because as a policy we freeze everything before we go into the launch. That's more important for us also, otherwise there's no way we can deliver if we get into a creative mode post launching and post selling. So that's one point, but what also happens is that there is a lot of expectation which is committed, which is to be delivered by the government in terms of infrastructure. That's becoming a bigger challenge for us. Like if we've committed that you're going to have a bus service coming here, you're going to have roads, and the government doesn't pitch in. So I know what we've done across all our projects. We bought buses and given a free service today. We made roads in Gurgaon. So we are now getting into even setting up substation for the electricity board. So what happened?
Developers in Gurgaon are doing.
Yeah, all of us are pulling.
Option.
Yeah, there's no other option. But the point is that when the customer has been delivered a home, he doesn't get all these things. So there is a big expectation mismatch. He says, okay, you gave me a house, but how do I live here? There's no road to come in proper. There's no proper electricity. So yes, I think there's got to be some level of engagement from the government as well to really get into that expectation thing.
Because so that's a practical challenge. All right. So let's just focus. I mean, that's a practical challenge. Sachin, we accept that. Developers are probably pitching in a bit more on external development, which they don't need to get into. But let's go back into the project level, right? There's still so many issues in terms of just the quality of construction. I'm talking about there's so much of a difference between what you get in South India in a city like Bangalore and in NCR. And how can we not standardize all of this? You're paying a certain price. What should be the thickness of the wall? What kind of quality of cement should you be using? What are the latest technologies which can cut down the time of delivery? All of this is pretty standardized globally, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, I think, if I talk about real estate as a business, it is, if you really look at a real estate developer's business, it's a project management business. It's about people, it's about managing information, it's about managing different stakeholders. And I think it all boils down to people. And I think what is happening is because a lot of these organizations don't have the right people, I believe, what some of these organizations may have done very well is not definitely a norm. You can talk about advancements in, globally, you will find BIM being now pretty much being mandated for most projects in the UK, across the world. I mean, the Singapore government's done it, the UK government's done it, but in India,
what is BIM?
Building information modeling, and basically getting BIM as a process to work for organizations is something that is really the way forward. But I believe, when you talk to developers in India, you'll struggle to find people who are competent enough to be able to model the project correctly, because if you don't model it correctly, everything else
so why not use the technology?
See,
is it expensive?
Like we are completely sold on BIM. We made very serious initiatives on getting our teams on BIM. The problem here is that we are also dependent on a lot of external consultants and the government fraternity where everybody has to get on BIM. The first rule is that I don't want to use technology just because it's fancy. It makes my life more complicated. The first rule of delivery on time is let's keep things simple.
Right.
It's not that I cannot do it without technology. Yes, if I had that, I can do it much better.
All right.
So we've done it, we've tried doing it, but we've not had 100% success because engineering and planning design is still not done at 100% precision level in India.
Okay,
You know,
fair
that's
enough.
still-
So, but adoption of new technologies is a way forward, and that's
Absolutely.
something which
Yes,
should be,
absolutely.
now there is shouldn't be much of a hesitation in adopting new technologies, new construction processes, new standards. Anshuman Magazine, I mean, what will it take for Indian real estate industry to get to a global level in both construction quality and design? I mean, why is there such a huge gap? I keep hearing about the fact that there aren't trained people. We're a country of 1.2 billion people. Why don't we have enough skilled labor and the rest of it which can bring this up?
First of all, on a positive note, I must say there is quite a bit of improvement in the quality of residential apartments, office building, retail you see today vis-a-vis 10 years. So there is a significant improvement. But are we anywhere close to international standards? We are not. There are few examples where there are some projects which are close to international standards, but overall certainly we have a long way to go. In fact, why go to United States? You go to China, you go to Malaysia, Thailand, they have better quality buildings than we do, which is quite disappointing. I think market forces is going to change this as the consumers demand more better quality, as the competition increases, and we are already seeing this. So today you see residential apartments with better design, better materials, and when the supply increases, when the competition increases, the developers will be pushed to make sure that they do better planning, put better technology. The fact is, somehow we assume that the development community does not understand that. They're not stupid, they know it. There are people out there. It's the question of adopting it. I think in India so far it has been quite easy in the past because it's really was a supply driven market, and that's going to change, and when it changes to demand driven, all this will come in. The fact also is that planning, a lot of the projects, moment the developer gets a control over the land, he won't, because cost of money is so high, not only because he's borrowed from the bank, a lot of times they borrow from the private sources. They immediately, the first thing is to launch the project and start pre-selling, because A, the cost of money is high, B, they have to then put the same money into construction, etc. So the time spent on planning is not there. If you really plan it to the last nail, and then put the skilled people, technology, certainly we can get the quality. And there are, like I said, cases where we have been able to deliver quality when there was intention to do it. So I think it's a matter of time. It's really the market forces will change this. The consumer is more aware. He's more demanding today, and we have seen that in the market. And we are therefore seeing projects in many cities which are coming up with better quality. This was not the case in the past, and I only believe, or I only hope that the market forces will be the only reason why this will change.
All right, gentlemen, we're going to come back, and we are also going to talk about engaging with the customer positively for the entire period of 5 years. The customer's experience has to be a great one. He's just investing so much money, a huge bulk of his savings. Statistics say 50% of India's household savings go into real estate or buying a home. So, how do you make that 3 to 5 year process stress-free, hassle-free, and actually enjoyable? That's the last question we're going to tackle with, because we're looking at the best practices in real estate in India. Stay with us. Welcome back. How do you make the customer interaction a happy one when it comes to buying a home? This is something you go out and ask any buyer of real estate in the last 5 years. Has it been a hassle-free buy? Has it been a hassle-free engagement, or has it been more than that, a joyful engagement? That's where the real estate industry needs to reach. Let me come to you, Vineet Relia. What do you think? I mean, do you feel that your customer has actually had an enjoyable experience engaging with Sare Homes, or in the current circumstances, just a hassle-free one?
No, I think initially we also had challenges where we felt that there was a bit of a stress coming on the customers, and every time you would send in only collection calls. Typically developers were only making collection calls to people and there was no other correspondence.
That's all that I've got from my developer.
So what we did was, and we noticed that there was a lot of huge expectation mismatch. So what we do is, the moment a sales is log in, we do a welcome call first and we set the expectations right. This is what you bought, this is what you're going to get. Then what we do is, we engage the customer on social media, where there's everyday information flow going out into the customers in terms of updates. Even if there is an issue on a site, we just send it out to the customers.
Information.
You're okay
to share information.
So we've gone on a very, very proactive approach to share information, so that he's not surprised by an element one day and he gets up in stress and starts calling. So the idea is that we become very proactive in terms of sharing information, exploiting the social medias and emails and construction updates, and even the local geographical updates. This is what is happening in Gurgaon, this has happened new. So that's really helping, that a lot of people have started appreciating that, and a lot of people now look up to our updates on social media. So that's one big plus we've seen.
So being forthcoming and constantly engaging with the customer, Mr. Shah, what is it that you do to delight the customer?
See, when customer is buying, he is actually getting only a piece of paper when he is booking the flat. Later on, when the whole process of 5 years takes place, that is where his experience gets built up. Initially, the customer needs to be taken through registration processes, the documentation and other things. So there is a different skill set that is required to engage with him. Once that is done, there is, like my friend mentioned, about the collection of funds and how to get bank loans. There is a different skill sets are required. So we have different sets of people who would interact with them. There would be initial marketing team, then there would be a customer care team, and there would be a maintenance team post delivery. So the experience all throughout is given by people who are expert at delivering those points of connection with the customer, and that is what has led to customer delight in all of our project.
Kalhan Mattu, final question to you. You think that the current product is delightful enough for the customers, or do you think that we in India have got used to just getting a product in time and we are happy?
So thankfully customers are demanding more and more, and we may have given up on our cities, but at least for our building complexes we tend to demand a little bit more, these little islands that we have created. But having said that, I think I want to link this to the earlier question about the quality. I think there's this issue that we have in India where let's say in Bombay, if X is my fee for a project, probably about 30x is the cost of construction, and about 3000x is the price at which you're selling it in some of the areas. So here is this asymmetrical kind of equation that is created, which obviously speaks volumes about how important we think construction to be and how important we think design to be. So somewhere, if the customers need to be delighted, if customers need to be engaged, if customers need to be given spaces that they can be proud of, then we need to create designs of the quality, and we need to buy the skills of that quality to create those designs.
All right. I'm also going to read out, I think, yes, the industry is getting better. They don't have an option now. There's so much supply. If you want the buyer to come in and buy your product and your project, you just have to fix everything that's wrong and you have to deliver quality. Gentlemen, I'm going to wrap out the discussion here, but also interesting to see that, we've always taken questions where the buyers have complained, have had huge issues with the project or some issue with the project. Buyer-seller agreements have been one-sided. Quality has not been up to the mark. Buildings and projects have started crumbling in 2 to 3 years of possession. We've also got some nice ones, and I think I'm going to read out one. This is an LDECO testimonial which came to us, Harpal Goswami. He said he actually thanked the LDECO developers and said really nice things about building a colony in Sonipat, and this is a retired couple who said it was handed over in time, wide roads, and we're very thankful for it. So it's not that buyers are not grateful. They are extremely grateful if you give a good product. And I'm going to wrap out again with a report card, because it's good to get that word out on who are the developers who are doing a good job. Sare Homes, IDEO Management, 3C Group, Vatika, Mahagun, Gorson and Paras Buildtech made the cut on the research by Prop Equity in the list of the top developers in NCR when it comes to timely delivery and also quality promised. MMR, there's Dosti Group, Marathon Realty, Kalpatru, Sangvi Group, Ravi Developers, Ekta World. And in Bangalore, we have, of course, all the four big names, Purvankara, Shobha, Prestige, Brigade, and also Mahavir Reddy Structures. So another, not a pan-India developer, a Bangalore developer who's made the cut in terms of quality and delivering in time. Good positive engagement with the customer. Anshuman Magazine, Mr. Shah, Kalhan Mattu, Vineet Relia and Sachin. Thanks very much for joining me on this show today. I'm going to wrap out and I hope more number of developers make the list next year and the industry just keeps raising the bar for itself. Goodbye.